Writing Out Loud, a program designed to explore in-depth interviews with writers to hear that words have voices.
Hello everyone, I'm Teresa Miller and welcome to Writing Out Loud. My very, very special guest today is Hille, who has a wonderful new book out, Ruby the Rowboat, Stink Bait, and Other Fishy Tales. And we're talking fishy.
Yes, very fishy.
Very fishy, tall tales, all that sort of thing. And you're wearing a brand new shirt, a gift from your daughter, that says local celebrity on it.
Yes, my daughter Sheila bought this for me at Walmart. So she said, since I told her that I was going to be on your show, she said, well, you should wear something special. So she went down to Walmart right away and got this fabulous T-shirt for me. So, am I overdressed?
No, you're just right, just perfect. You're handling it beautifully because this is a special occasion. This is the eve, really, of the day you're going to see your first book. You're going to see it. It's arriving in the mail for you, I guess, tomorrow probably.
Yes.
You'll have a copy in hand.
Yes, get hold it.
What's going through your mind with this, Marianne?
Well, just thinking about it makes my stomach kind of turn over. It's really nerve-wracking.
Tell us how so.
Well, it's one thing to write stories and just have that all kind of pour out of your head, but you do that just all by yourself. So then when you think about, oh my goodness, a whole bunch of people are maybe going to read this and they'll have opinions about it.
Family are going to be reading it.
Family's going to be reading it. Friends that are mentioned in the book, I think, okay.
And in a very positive way, in a very loving way.
Oh yeah. But then, it's really, it's scary to have people know your thoughts.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah, it is.
And, and even though these stories focus on your friends and family, you're at the heart of them. You're the voice behind the stories. And so that's where your people are going to see you maybe in a little different way.
Maybe they will.
You think
maybe
so?
They will. So, it's a little unsettling, but very exciting. It's like Christmas and your birthday when you're 16 and, all kinds of, the day you get married, all kinds of wonderful, exciting, terrifying things.
Yeah. Before you met your husband, Joe Bob Hille, did you ever think of yourself as a lake person? In other words, were you into stink bait before he came into your life?
Well, I had a girlfriend growing up that had a cabin at the lake. And so we used to go up there and go water skiing. And, I thought that was just the most fun. But this is a whole different thing when you go as an adult, because then you have responsibilities and you have your children with you, so you're not just up there just driving around the boat,
Yeah.
with no thought in your head. But it's real different to go as an adult, and you have to think, oh my goodness, I have to be careful of my children. They don't fall in the lake. They have to all be safe. Everyone has to be taken care of, and just being out in the country is a little different from being in the city, where you have limits. You can go over to so-and-so's house, but you can't go past the end of this street, or, well, at the lake, there aren't boundaries like that.
Yeah, and I want us to talk about that a little bit more later, but for the record, you need to define stink bait for those of us who aren't so lake savvy.
Well, I have to say that I'm really not an expert on stink bait, but that's by choice. That was my husband's specialty. He was a catfish fisherman, or crappie. He liked both of those best. And so in the summer, when you're fishing for catfish, oh my goodness, the nasty things that catfish eat. Oh, so stink bait is one of those delightful things that he would have around the house all the time, and they'd be in the refrigerator. So you want to kind of make sure that they're pushed to the back.
Well, you tell a story about a little accidental encounter you had with stink bait and a toothbrush. You want to share that with us?
Oh, my husband. Oh, he was always such a tease. So I figured that he would be the one to play a trick on me. Well, this was one night he'd been out late fishing. Of course, the fish don't ever bite during normal people's hours. So he'd been out late fishing, and I was in bed asleep, and he came up, and I could hear him in the bathroom scrubbing away, because stink bait and catfish, Charlie, get under your fingernails, and it's kind of like grease. Well, I don't know what it's like. It's horrible, but anyway, it's hard to clean off.
Yeah.
So I heard him in there scrubbing away, and I thought, he is using my toothbrush. I know he's using my toothbrush. So, but then I thought, oh well, I'll take care of it later. So I just kind of went back to sleep, and the next morning, I got up and I went in the bathroom to check that toothbrush, and I looked at it real carefully, kind of flipped it, and oh yeah, it was wet. So I thought, oh, I knew he'd do that. So I thought, well, I'll fix him. I'll just use his toothbrush. So I brush my teeth with his toothbrush, and while I'm brushing my teeth, he comes in the bathroom and says, "Hey, when you go to the store today, will you pick me up a new toothbrush because I used mine to clean my fingernails?" Ah!
Yeah. Okay.
That was gross.
Yeah. I've been using the term lake generically, but for you, this was a very, very specific place, the Boat and Bottle Cove. It's on Grand Lake.
Grand Lake.
Why did this cove become such an important retreat for you and your family? I mean, you were out there almost every weekend.
Oh, we were there every weekend, yeah. But my husband used to complain when someone would get married. He'd say, "Why do they get married on the weekend? What's up with that?" Oh, yes, we went every weekend. And this place was special. Well, most of what made it special were the neighbors there. Mm-hmm. It was a little community, so we weren't just like a cabin up on top of a crest overlooking the lake, so you didn't have any neighbors, you never saw anyone. There were neighbors, 9 houses that were all pretty close. I mean, you could throw a rock. You could spit from one to the other if you really wanted to. So our interaction with the neighbors up there was really what made it very special. In town, you may or may not know your neighbors. Most likely, even if you know them, you don't really visit with them. But this was in and out of everybody's door. Your house is my house. We never knocked. That was what made it special.
And many of you shared another connection, that you had a history with the oil business.
Oh, yes. Some of the families there and my husband and Joe Bob all worked for the same company. And from time to time, there were other people at the lake that were all in the oil business. And so, yeah, that for the men, that's just instant camaraderie. And we all had known each other from time to time.
Are oil people a little different?
Yeah, I think they're all a little weird.
Are they a little weird, a little different?
All that moving around, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. So for all this moving around, finding a place where you're all settled and together takes on added meaning, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
You've written a wonderful, wonderful opening to your chapter, A Magic Place, that talks about this, and I'd love for you to read it for us, if you would.
Okay, sure. It's just that it was magic. Surely that was the only explanation. Take a dozen or so ordinary cabins and place them closely together along a point in a cove on Grand Lake of the Cherokees and call it the Boat and Bottle Cove. Nothing special. Cruising by on the water, you would never look twice. No poignant squalor either to attract attention. No romanticized Steinbeck setting. The oil-filled drums turned trash cans stood so plainly upright along the road leading in, rusting in lidless mediocrity. Here and there a brave but spindly photinia bush dared to provide some camouflage. The cabins and houses themselves, some rock, some frame, some old, some newly renovated, were not exceptionally bad or good either, and most were small. The lake water was no bluer, clearer, or deeper than other places on the lake, the birds no more abundant, the trees and grass no better cared for or more carefully planned. Rather, whatever managed to grow here was welcome. And yet there was something about the light through the dogwood branches outside my bedroom window in early morning, when wakefulness was something yet to be accomplished, when lying in bed and gazing out a paned window was much to be preferred to getting up. On winter mornings, the light stretched down to the lake soft and silver, but in the summer, the light was a rich gold, promising a scorcher to late risers. Sometimes in the morning, a mist rolled up toward the land from the water, carrying a wet scent of fish and spongy earth and salty rocks. From the cabin, I could look out about a mile to the mouth of the cove. The land came in toward itself in 2 fingers, making a perfect frame for my view out onto the main body of the lake and the spillway beyond. Green trees, white houses and brown, red rocky outcrops dotted the far shore while white gulls wheeled lazily over the opaque water. It was hardly breathtaking. It was just rocks and trees, fish and birds, water, clouds, and light lying quietly against the seasons of the land. But there was something about it.
That's a beautiful, beautiful passage. And
I've
told you that it passes the jealousy test. I wish I'd written it. I really, really do. But I want us to go for some tabloid moments too.
Oh, do.
And you talked about crossing boundaries out there, that there really were no boundaries out there. What were some specific things that you could do out at the lake that you couldn't do at home in Tulsa?
Well, for the kids, I guess it was really more. It was such freedom for them because you didn't have any particular time you had to be in. My granddaughter Emma, who is 12, said to me one time when she was at the lake, she said, "Oh, I just love to come up here." And I said, "You do?" And she said, "Yes, you can just go wherever you want." You know, and I thought, wow. And she's she lives in Augusta, Georgia, and so you don't get to go just wherever you want all the time.
No.
But at the lake you can.
And I imagine in town you have a very ordered life, and did even then, because, you know,
Sure.
you're business people, your kids are in school. But out there, oh gosh, shoes all over everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, rooms.
Everybody else's shoes, too.
Yeah, and everybody piling into the same room. And your kitchen went through so many transitions. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean,
oh, my kitchen was such a fright. When we first started going to the cabin, it was tiny. It was really, I called it a kitchen hole, which is really what it was. You could stand in one place and stick your arms out in all directions, and you could touch the walls. It had a little pass-through window that went into the living room area, and if you opened the refrigerator door, then you couldn't get out of the kitchen. And there was no stove. There was just a little 2-burner cooktop there.
Yeah.
It was a fright. But you know, we rented the cabin to begin with, and the woman that we rented it from said, you know, I do more cooking up here than I do in Tulsa. And I thought, wow, that isn't saying much for how much she cooks in Tulsa. But I found that to be true. We were always cooking something up there, even on that little 2-burner, because there was always a reason to get together with the neighbors.
And wasn't it the sort of stuff you wouldn't cook at home? Fun stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, we cooked whatever was available at the Ketchum Market, which was oftentimes interesting.
I guess what I'm getting at is a friend of mine told me about a theory that a lot of people who are very, very controlled in their lives have at least one messy drawer. And I just wonder if for your family, the lake was sort of your messy drawer, where you just tossed everything in and let what happened happen.
Well, that's true. You know, Teresa, I would really like to say that I'm pretty controlled in the rest of my life, but that's just not true.
Okay, there's the rest of the tabloid
Okay.
moments. We've got a second book in that. As much as these stories are about the lake, they're about your husband, Joe Bob.
Yes.
How would you describe him to people who didn't get a chance to know him?
He had such a wonderful sense of humor, and he could diffuse any kind of bad moment. If people were getting upset, then he could instantly say something that was funny, that it just all went away. Everybody was having a good time, and even beside themselves. You know, they might not want to have a good time, but you just kind of couldn't help it. He had a very infectious personality. He was in the oil business, and what he did was make deals, and so he loved to engage with other people. He was not the kind of person that ever wanted to be by himself, ever. And usually he liked the more the merrier. Just bring them all. Come on, everybody come. If you have some friends, dogs, whoever, you know, bring them. And then he would like to deal with you, you know, to always try and figure out how to make you have as good a time as he wanted to have.
Yeah. Did you ever get the sense as you were writing this book, you have 7 grandchildren, that you were introducing them to their grandfather?
Yes, because they really didn't get to know him. He passed away before they were really old enough to know him, although some of them were born. But no, they really didn't get to know him. So this is a way for them to know. Joe Pop is what Emma called him.
That's a nice name,
Yeah.
isn't it? And he would like that.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
And you know something else about him, Marianne? He was so charming, but just a little bit dangerous, do you think?
Oh, yes, he was such a bad boy.
And
yeah.
that made him so exciting. And
Oh, yes, he was.
what impact did growing up at the lake and being a part of the lake culture, having your own children and their value system?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think they would say, even though we dragged them to the lake every weekend, and there was some complaining about that
Really?
from time to time. From time to time.
Okay.
But for the most part, I think they would say that was a wonderful growing up. It was a nice time to spend. We spent time together as a family, fighting, loving, you know, whatever it was that was happening. But we did it together. And then here were all these other interesting people that were quirky and odd and fun and great and interesting. And they had some of the other neighbors had kids their age, and some of them were older. You know, they were retired. But we had quite a variety of folks up there, so I think that made it wonderfully interesting for them. And then they brought their friends. The kids brought their own friends up there.
Oh, yeah, those are fun stories about riding down in the car with Joe Bob.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Those were pretty good stories. One of your chapters, Rules of the Lake. Take us through some of them, because we're really talking about life lessons here.
Well, there were 3 rules at the lake that were important, and now if I see if I can remember them exactly. One rule was you have to be careful at all times. That was rule number 1. And that Joe Bob was really picky about being careful. He was, for somebody who was really laid back, and a lot of fun and that sort of thing, he was really hyper vigilant about being careful. There was no messing around in the boat or in the car. None of that. For instance, he would say, when the kids were out skiing, he'd say, "Now when you fall, you better get that ski up in the air right away, because if you don't, somebody is going to run over you from behind. So I want to see that ski up in the air. Even if you're unconscious, you stick that ski up in the air." So, he'd yell at him like that, and he was big guy, and he had this big booming voice, so he was scary. So he'd yell at him, and he used to always say, "Don't do anything stupid," or "Don't do anything stupid," or "Don't do anything stupid," So yeah, he was kind of scary, and he kept everybody into.
So those were the main rules.
Yeah, those were the main rule was the first main rule, and the most important rule was you have to be careful.
And then he also wanted everybody to at least try, didn't he? I mean,
yes.
He was pretty much a stickler for that.
You had to try, and you never got made fun of if you were terrible. And doing things like water skiing is difficult, or fishing is difficult, and so those are about the only things that we did that you would have to try. But you have to be willing to let yourself be silly. If you're not willing to put yourself out a little bit, then you're just going to be afraid all your life.
You mentioned skiing and swimming and water sports, but earlier when you were reading from a magic place, you mentioned winter. What was the cold like in winter? What special meaning did it take on for you then?
Well, then everything just shifted inside. There was probably there were more gatherings to talk because it was cold outside, or it was snowing or raining, or the weather was bad. But wintertime was really no different. We just weren't out in the boat. However, Joe Bob did, of course, he went fishing all the time. It didn't matter how hot it was or how cold it was. He always went fishing, and we always had fish.
And what sort of things did you do indoors?
We'd play games. We played lots of silly games, which some of them I've written about in the book. Some of the games we played, some of them got a little raw. Lots of them were card games. We had this particular card game that we played, especially with the Welches who lived next door.
Yeah.
And we play this game. Liverpool Rummy is the name of it. It's really a silly game, but it's lots of fun, and you can get real excited about it and try and do something to somebody else. You don't play partners, but you try and get the guy that's ahead. So it's real fun, and we play that game till the wee hours.
The best-selling writer Michael Wallace has said of your book that you've done a beautiful job of writing about your family and your loved ones without sticky sentiment. But the passion is there. We're showing some pictures of you and Joe Bob, some great pictures. And he'd like to surprise you with little romantic gifts at the lake. Give us some examples of some of these gifts. I asked you to bring some here today, but you told me that you'd sold them at a garage sale, and I was horrified.
Oh, my word. Had I only known then that I was going to be needing them for show and tell, I would have saved them. But, yes, he did bring me some just really lovely gifts, Teresa. One of them was, one morning, he came home. He'd been down to Place 85, which was the local bait shop. And and he came back with something hidden behind his back. And he said, "I have something for you that's real purty." And I said, "Well, what would that be?" And so he brought out this picture of a saw. It wasn't a picture. It was a saw that had a picture painted on it, hand-painted on it. And I said, "That's just so nice. I'm just thrilled. Thank you, dear." So what had happened was the owner of the bait shop had found that during the wintertime things get a little tough, and businesses at the lake are pretty seasonal. You got to make your money in the summer. So during the winter, things get tough. And his wife decided to take up art. So she began painting
on saws.
Pictures on saws. And oh my goodness, yes, I don't know how many saws he brought home to me. They were just lovely. I put them in our living room in the bookcase. But alas, they did go to the garage sale.
And then there was a jig shade.
Oh yeah.
Tell us what that is.
She also made well, I guess she decided, this art business is really pretty cool, and there's a whole community out there in Ketchum that really appreciates art.
And one especially good customer.
Joe Bob loved it. So she got to looking around and thought, well, those saws are kind of expensive, but if I found something that we already had here that was a little less expensive, that would be pretty good. So she found a fish basket, and she said, J.W., that was her husband, J.W., if you just take the bottom out of that and just hang it upside down, you could put it over just a plain old light fixture and hang jigs on that thing while you just have your chandelier. And so that's what she did. Oh, my word. Joe Bob brought home one of those things. I bet it had 100, maybe 200 jigs hung all over it, every color you can ever imagine. It was pretty fabulous. And we hung it out on the porch.
Yeah.
And right over our dining room table there. It was a wonder.
One of the highlights, apart from the poignancy in your book, is the humor. I mean, the parts of it are just hysterical. Introduce us to Sacagawea.
Oh, Sacagawea.
Yeah.
Well, Sacagawea belonged to our neighbors, Lynn and Alma Williams, who were also in the oil business, and we'd known them before. But they had a cabin on down the road from us. And one day they decided to buy this Indian. Now, Sacagawea is stuffed, but she has a wooden face and hands, and she has all her costume, and she has this real serious face, like scowling face. Mm-hmm. So, but they just loved Sacagawea, and they just kind of felt that she was a member of the family. Mm-hmm. So they'd have a place for her at the dining room table, and you'd come over to have dinner at Lynn and Alma's and play cards. Then here'd be Sacagawea sitting right next to you, and they'd direct conversation to her. Sacagawea, what do you think of that fish? Did Alma do a good job? And you'd go in the bathroom, and there she'd be sitting on the john in the bathroom. It'd just almost make your heart stop to see Sacagawea in there. And then, of course, you'd have to move her.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She even participated in a boat race, didn't she?
She did. We decided to have this race, water scamps. And water scamps are just little, they're a little bigger than this table, but they're like, 4 by 8 or something, and or by 6. And they have a little motor in the back, and it's just really a one-person thing. You sit on the back of this little kind of stool and guide it around. And it's great for getting into really shallow places or just to kind of putsy along if you're going from place to place on the lake. Inside very quiet water. So we decided to have a water scamp race. Lynn and Alma had a water scamp, and Bob Sneed, a neighbor at the lake, had a water scamp. So we had this crazy race. And Sacagawea, Lynn and Alma came over in their boat towing the water scamp over to our dock. We were going to race back and forth to Hammerhead. And so here they came. Lynn and Alma's crew from his coast came over, and Sacagawea was riding in the back with her braids sticking out, looking, scowling around. So yeah, she participated in the race, and I have to say it was a really sad day because they beat us. It was awful. And that Sacagawea, she just I think she just really enjoyed that.
And she's missing. I understand you've lost track of her.
I've lost track of her, yeah. Well, I'm sure some jealous person has kidnapped her and placed her in their own bathroom.
Well, maybe this book will bring her to light again. The poet Emily Dickinson once said, "Ourselves behind, ourselves concealed would startle most." As you wrote this memoir, did you make any discoveries about yourself that surprised you?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I think maybe the thing that was surprising was how much fun it was to relive all this. Mm-hmm. And when I started out thinking I would write this, I was thinking, now I really need to do this. It was kind of more of a chore. Mm-hmm. Not exactly a chore, but a work. But I found that writing it was such a huge pleasure for me. It brought back all those wonderful memories of my husband and those silly things that we used to do, and fun things when the children were small, and the goofy things that we did for fun that were just really, really dumb, but so much fun. So that was a surprise to me, that it would be such a joy to do the writing.
Yeah. And now there's a new generation at the lake. You
Yeah.
still go on a regular basis.
Yes.
But you've written a beautiful epilogue, and I wanted you to read your epilogue for us because it
Okay.
ties all this together in such a lovely way.
Okay, I'd be glad to. I'm going to have to put my glasses back on. A cherished husband, a cherished uncle, cherished friends. These stay forever. They're found in fat white clouds against a brilliant blue sky on a spring day, in the quiet circling of dragonflies over warm, still water, and the agile movement of a line being cast out and reeled in. They're found in the orange, gold, and blue of a bonfire in autumn, and in a quiet snowfall that frames an ancient rock face. And they are found in all the human gatherings where laughter, gentle and boisterous, rises up to fill voids and warm hearts. Since 1980, when this particular collection of events began to unfold, there have been many changes at the Boat and Bottle Cove. Some of the folks have passed on. Some moved away, some retired. The ones who used to be the young folks have now become the old folks. The kids have grown up and gotten married, and they've scattered out over long miles from Georgia to Texas. Well, we've lost way too many to Texas, but that's just my opinion. These children have had children of their own and have brought them to the Boat and Bottle Cove to see and experience firsthand the love and lore of the lake. Golf carts have replaced mopeds, and DVDs and DirecTV have arrived. There are Nerf guns, iPods, iPhones, and computers. There is every manner of motorized watercraft. There are Capri Suns, where once there were only soda cans. Everyone drinks bottled water instead of tap. Beer, it's good to note, has not lost its allure, but neither has the practice of telling stories, telling and retelling.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Mary.
Oh, Teresa, it was such a pleasure. It's always fun to be with you.
Congratulations on this great book.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for joining us on Writing Out Loud.